Let's bring in Lara Trump, senior advisor for the Trump 2020 campaign. Lara, good morning to you. Great to have you here this morning. So Hogan Gidley from your campaign has already said President Trump 100% won the debate last night. Tim Murtaugh from your campaign claims absolute total victory. I'm sure you'll say the same, but did the performance by the president change any minds or sway any voters last night?
Well, I agree with Tim, and I agree with the campaign assessment you just gave there. I thought the president did an incredible job. And look, I think the criticism of him from the first debate, Sandra, was that, you know, he was very strong against Joe Biden. We saw last night that if you were looking for the president to, you know, come back a little bit, be a little bit more measured, we got that version of Donald Trump last night, and he can do that. He's always said he can do that. But I thought he was particularly strong when he was actually talking about things that matter to the American people, when he was talking about the economy, reopening our country, getting kids back to school, the energy industry. These are really important things to Americans. So look, whether you're talking about the tone of the entire debate or the substance, I think the president probably did sway voters his way last night. We were very proud of his performance.
Ari Fleischer was on Fox News just a little bit ago and had some advice for the president in the days that follow this debate on how to bring it home now. Watch.
This is a race between an outsider with results against a typical politician with no results who's moving left. If the president drives that simple theme home in the next 11 days, a lot of good can happen for Donald Trump.
He says the president has one job left, and it's simple. Drive home the difference between an outsider with results, you just heard him say, and a typical politician with no results who keeps moving left. What will we see from the president as far as strategy with 11 days left?
Well, you heard the president say that last night. He said, I'm not a politician. That's why I won in 2016. And he said, I ran for president because of the failed policies of career politicians like you, Joe Biden. I mean, he literally said that to Joe Biden last night. So I do think you're going to hear the president echo that message. He's been saying it. He continues to say, I have done more in 47 months than Joe Biden has done in 47 years. But look, it's also about reminding people what the accomplishments of this president actually are. So that's why we're spread out, Sandra, all across the country, our entire family, including the president, vice president. We're out there reminding the American people what this president has been able to deliver in record time and why he is the only person that can bring this economy back and get us to those great heights that we saw not too many months ago.
Lara, one of the biggest moments of the night last night was when the two had this exchange over the coronavirus and handling the pandemic. Watch.
Anyone who's responsible for that many deaths should not remain as president of the United States of America. We're in a situation where there are 1,000 deaths a day now.
It will go away, and as I say, we're rounding the turn, we're rounding the corner. It's going away.
Johns Hopkins University reports that the 7-day rolling average of new cases in this country is up 18,000 in just the last week. Lara, daily new deaths is up 9%. You just heard the president make as while Joe Biden painted a picture of what he said could be a very dark winter for this country. So did it help for the president to take that approach, considering Joe Biden still is polling above the president on American voters and who they think is best to handle this pandemic?
Well, look, at the onset of this, we saw that the predictions were that we could see upwards of 2 million deaths. Now, one death is too many. Our hearts go out to everyone who's had to deal with this. But the president took on a novel virus, something we had never seen before anywhere in the world. And so this was historic, what this president did, not only with testing, with ventilators, partnering with the private sector, paycheck protection program. Now we are on the precipice of a vaccine in record time. So when that happens, I think we're going to see a huge change across the country. And the president has said that is probably weeks away. I think it's a terrible message to send to the American people that you heard from Joe Biden, that it would be a dark winter. Why would we want to be so negative and dismal? That's very, very disturbing to hear. You want a president who's positive, who's uplifting, who knows what's on the horizon, as President Trump does with this vaccine. And I think we're going to see a big change when that comes out.
Quick follow-up on that. We saw you, as well as the president's children, walk into the debate hall last night wearing masks. You sat down, you wore them the whole time. Was that a change in heart over wearing the masks, or was that because the debate commission made that a rule?
Well, that's because they asked us to wear the mask the whole time. Again, I continue to reiterate that the first time around that was not made, perfectly clear to us. We walked in with them and we thought we were okay to take them off when we sat down. Happy to keep them on if that was the rule, and that's what we did.
Lara, final question on women voters, and we can put up on the screen. This is our new Fox News state polling on Joe Biden and how he's polling versus the president with suburban women. You can clearly see that Joe Biden is running up the score among suburban women. Does this concern the campaign, and what are you doing in the final days to try to change some of those minds?
Well, look, we have continued to reach out to all Americans, including women. I'll be on our Women for Trump bus this week in my home state of North Carolina, along with some great female surrogates from the Trump campaign. And we're excited to talk about the president's track record, what he has done for women all across America in the past 4 years, what he plans to do not only to get the economy back, but to keep everybody safe in America, get schools back open. And those are really important issues to women all across this country.
Lara, I've only got a couple seconds left, but if we can put up on the screen the early vote count total. Everybody's talking about this. The huge number so far, over 47 million have casted their ballots early versus this point in 2016. It's about 10 million more. Is this something that the campaign is concerned about? Is this a good sign for Joe Biden? And how do you analyze that?
Well, we've been encouraging our voters to get out and vote early. If your state offers early voting, go vote now. Get your vote locked in for the president. You look at states like Michigan, where we are far ahead, Sandra, with early vote and mail-in voting totals way ahead of where a Republican has ever been before. So these are actually looking rather positive for President Trump. It is a sign that, hopefully people are listening to us and getting out and voting early. I hope we see those results in a big way for President Trump on November 3rd.
Lara Trump, appreciate you joining us this morning. Thanks so much.